So hello and welcome to this webinar about data acquisition for roboticed shop floors and put on by DIH². So I'm Alvaro, I'm a project manager at ISD. And in this webinar, I'm going to introduce you to the DIH² network and our purpose. Then I'm going to take you through a resource we are offering to you as part of DIH² services, which are free online courses about technological and digital skills designed to be useful for SMEs and individuals working in manufacturing and robotics. So then I'm going to hand it to Chemislav, guest expert and creator of our course about data acquisition for roboticed shop floors. And he's going to take you through key points to know about the topic. And when he's done, we'll have time for question and answers. So yeah, let's get started. So DIH² believes, and I'm in the second one, Alex, sorry. DIH² believes in the power of robotics to transform the agility of manufacturing SMEs and to drive economic growth across the European Union. And our role is to facilitate the connections that enable agile production and in factories where speed and versatility are essentials to satisfy customer demand. So originally funded by Horizon 2020, the European Union Research and Innovation Programme tasked with bringing great ideas from lab to market, we aim to generate innovation that maximize productivity and optimize agility in manufacturing SMEs and mid-caps across the European Union. In addition, our goals include improving the cost effectiveness of advanced robotic solutions and driving growth of the robotic market. So we already have a large and growing ecosystem of organizations that have joined our network. And if you're interested in learning more about joining, you can visit DIH/squared.eu. So in this PowerPoint slide, we're now the DIH² network is managed by a number of different partners from across Europe, each playing a different role. And as I said before, I'm from ISD, a business school from the digital era based in Spain. Our role is to provide training courses that are currently open and free for anyone to access. So on the next slide, please, Alex. In this one, we can see our target goals, and the objectives of the courses are, as you can see here. We aim to introduce users into European manufacturing sector to new technologies and ways of work, to teach how to implement those ways of working, and ultimately support the update of innovation in manufacturing SMEs across Europe. You can view our courses via our online platform, dih4square.mooc.ramp.eu, and you can browse the entire catalog without registering. But if you would like to take a course, you will need then to create an account in order to access all the didactic material. It's a very simple and very quick and easy to create account, so it's not very hard. In this slide, in this slide we can see we have a number of courses specifically focused on technology related to manufacturing and robotics. So in the next slide, please, Alex. Yeah, here. You can see a better overview of what we have on this list. You can see all the different courses and different experts we have. And which one of them is the one from Chemislav. So in addition, we have a wide range of courses about digital skills aimed to help you bring the knowledge into the modern world. Topics covered include agile methodology, data-driven marketing, interface design, and usability, and much more. All of our courses feature video, text, slides, graphics, and interactive learner experience. Many courses also allow you to test knowledge at the end with self-assessment, and the length of time it takes to complete a course can vary from between 1 hour or less up to 10 hours, depending on the topic. So yeah, here again, the platform can be accessed on DIH².mooc.ramp.eu. So now we have our guest here. I'd like to introduce you to Chemislav. He's a creator of this course of data acquisition for Robotized Shop Floors. And now he will share his screen, and then he will present his course and what he has to offer. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Alvaro. I should smile like in the picture, so you see that it's me. Okay, so I'll now share my screen, and I would gladly appreciate if you can confirm that you see it. It should be there. Can you see the slides?
Perfectly, yeah. Thank you.
Great. So hello, everyone, once again. I'm Przemek Kowalski from DIH², like similar names, but there is a lot of digital innovation hubs around. And yeah, my today's role is actually to tell you why would you have the training, or why would you participate, or why would you actually spend your time using the courses that I have created, but not only me, because I believe that the big part of the message that I have during this short presentation is connected with all the courses that are actually available in the platform that Alvaro has just described. So why would you have the course if everything is known? What do I mean by everything is known? So we have been in the market, or if you are SMEs, if you're companies that are working in the manufacturing sector, then you could potentially say that actually everything about the market is already known. You know the solutions because you're not sitting probably only in your factory. There is a lot of conferences, there is a lot of meetings, and you probably know that there are solutions for the problems you might encounter. There are tools that are also available, because there is barely any manufacturing site in the world nowadays that actually doesn't have any digital tools or like automation tools. You have PLCs, you have some controllers, you have computers. These are all tools that are or could be used for data acquisition. You know the providers because there are some companies that you buy from them, that they're trying to invite you to the conferences that I said before. So you know them. And the support, on the other hand, is also abundant. What do I mean by support is abundant? It's like, for instance, we are here. We have the digital innovation hubs, not only in Spain, but also in Poland. We have digital innovation hubs in virtually every country in the world. And these are just regular digital innovation hubs. These are European digital innovation hubs. You probably have also some regional or industrial development agencies that are trying to help you with the choices you make as a company. And there are some industrial clusters or some other governmental or non-governmental organizations that work on the country level or work on the province level or the city level that are actually trying to help SMEs within the industrial and not only or manufacturing areas on how do they work. And last but not least, the term of Industry 4.0 is already known to most of people. It's nothing new, right? It is well defined because you can find definitions of Industry 4.0 everywhere. It is understood because there is a lot of people that are explaining to you what is Industry 4.0. That it's all about the data, that it's the new concept of how should everything within the factory and outside the factory collaborate with each other. It is practiced and it is supposed to be implemented. And the question is it? And the truth is that even though you may agree with all the things that I've said before, so we have a lot of support institutions, we have a lot of information coming from every source. We know that there is something like Industry 4.0. We know that it is important. We know that Digital Innovation Hub can help us. We know that we can get European funding for some innovation. We know about everything. And it figures out that actually all those things, and I'm in my Digital Innovation Hub, I'm working directly with the customers in manufacturing. What does it mean directly? It means that I am the person that is going to the shop floor. I am looking at the machines. I'm talking with companies about their problems. I'm trying to help them innovate, not only transformate, but also innovate within the very limited budget they have. And what I figure out is that most of things connected with Industry 4.0, connected with the support you can get virtually from anywhere, they are actually living the life of a buzzword. And what do I mean by saying this? I mean that the tools in these areas are usually more important than the solutions. So people tend to focus more on what will they use to do something rather than why would they do that? Will this solve the problem? The solutions are more important than the problems. And actually the solutions that we often implement in the shop floors are actually becoming new problems that your company will be facing. This is quite sad actually, but a lot of implementations I have seen in my life are completely wrong. And they are not wrong because they are wrong technically. They are wrong because they were made to solve the problem that was actually not really important to the company. So to who was it important? Obviously, it was important to the company that was selling the solution, but still it doesn't help you as a manufacturing side. And why does it happen is because the understanding is neglected. The buzzword of Industry 4.0 is so cool that if you look at the companies that are trying to sell you ERP systems, that are trying to sell you robots, that are trying to sell you the cloud services, the servers, the data storage services, anything that is actually connected with technology and connected to the industry or manufacturing, every company is using the term of Industry 4.0 and telling you why is their solution Industry 4.0. Nobody focuses on how would that help you, because understanding is not the part of the typical sales process. If you have hired any salesperson in your life, you would probably know that it's really hard to train a good salesperson that's gonna actually be interested in what is important for the customer, but what's really important for the customer. And now we're in the situation where in Industry 4.0, those activities are neglected, but selling is not, which means that you will oftentimes be sold solutions to problems you don't have, or to problems that you may have, but they're actually not really of major importance to you. And this is a huge problem. This is the biggest problem of the whole industry and the whole support market that we have now in Europe, and not only in Europe. Because generally speaking, the buying replaces understanding. Because nobody tries to understand your problem. You want to buy something to solve the problem you were told you have. And actually, it goes even further because it's not actually buying, it's being sold to that replaces buying. And oftentimes, if you are coming from the manufacturing SME, you may recall from your memory, recent or further, that actually there was at least one thing that you have purchased for your company. You didn't know what it does. You didn't know what it solves as a problem, but you bought it and you have it. And it brings no value to your company. You pay checks for that, big or small, doesn't matter. But everybody from the industry, especially the manufacturing, remembers at least one kind of such situation. And how does it apply to the courses that we have here? It applies in a way that the farther we go with the technology, the farther we go with digital solutions, the farther we go with a deep understanding of our needs to become an Industry 4.0 company, the more we need to understand. And in the world of data acquisition, there is a lot of things to be understood, not to fall into the trap of being sold or buying solutions that you don't actually need. So why would data acquisition be important? Obviously, because it brings data, and all the concepts from now on are thoroughly discussed within the course that I have recorded for ISDI. So data. In data acquisition, well, data is the pinnacle of Industry 4.0. And there are many definitions of the Industry 4.0, but the rightest definitions, they usually say that in Industry 4.0, everything is data. So you heard probably of something that is called the digital twin. Digital twin is the representation of whatever object. And to represent an object, you need the data about that object. Okay, so if you think of the room I'm sitting now in, the representation of this room would be probably the lights, the air conditioning. So if I have the information about whether the light is on or off, or air conditioning on or off, and I have the temperature meter inside, then I could create a digital twin of this place. And to have the information on all these things, I need to get the data from the air conditioning, from the lights, and I need the thermometer that will actually measure it. So any other machine in the world, if you have like the machine that is manufacturing the Pringles crisps, or if you have a machine that's manufacturing, I don't know, that's welding something, then each and every object and process within the Industry 4.0 is represented by data. And why is it the pinnacle of Industry 4.0? It's because we should be able to freely exchange the data. And the data should be accessible everywhere, which means that if I have an information about this room, the temperature, the aircon, whatever else, then it should be accessible across the company so that everybody that needs the data will have the updated and actual data. Same applies to the relationships with our factory with some other factories. If you have a customer that is coming to you and he wants to know what is the lead time for a certain thing, so if you have enough data from your production, from your warehouse about what is actually happening, then you can provide him the information. So this is why data is so super important. And it comes from data acquisition. And to be able to thoughtfully and with full awareness acquire data, you don't really need or want to talk to the companies that are going to try to sell you the data acquisition systems before you actually understand it. And it's either you, the president or the director, or somebody from the engineering, probably some like chief engineer or some manager of the engineering department, but definitely there should be at least one person within the company that is able to understand the process of data acquisition. And what does it take to understand the data acquisition? You need to understand the measurement signals that you can actually get from various devices, okay? There are signals that are analog, there are signals that are digital, there are signals that are analog but non-voltage signals. Actually, you can measure anything. So you need to know what are the signal type that you can measure and how can you potentially approach the measurements, which means what sensors will be used, what transducers will be used. That's number one. Number two, you need to understand what assets do you actually have in your manufacturing site that you can get the signals from. And it's not just the information or knowledge about a certain machine. So yeah, I have, or maybe the room I'm sitting in. So we have the room, so we need to get the information about this, that, and that from that room. So that's just part of the knowledge. The other part is to know how is the data transmitted from those things, because the thermometer will be giving you some sort of a signal, digital or analog, through some interface, wireless or not. That's number one. The lightning, again, you can measure the voltage on the bulb. That's one method of measuring that. You can measure the intensity of light within the room. You can have a measurements, on-off measurements on the switch that turns on the light over here. So you need to know what are the assets you are monitoring and how can you actually extract the signals from them? Because some devices, especially the newer ones, they do have sensors built in, and they are already returning the data you may think of getting from them with additional sensors, which is obviously pointless because it will cost more to use additional sensor where the sensor is already in. So you need to understand the systems that you already have. And how does it connect to something that I told you before, that we are being sold? The truth is that if you don't have understanding of those 3 points, then it's very easy to you to buy any sort of acquisition system that will actually be redundant to what you have in your company. Meaning that you may have sensors in all of the devices in your shop floor. If it's 20 years old or younger, then there is probably a lot of sensors that are returning a lot of data on the devices that you have in your manufacturing. But if you don't know it, and if you have never used it because the machines were not connected, and now you're entering the industry for when you're willing to actually interconnect everything to have like the smooth data integration, then if there is a company that is coming to you and saying, hey, we have a beautiful data acquisition system connected with IoT and some fancy things, and we can sell it to you and acquire the data about all the production you have, then it's very easy for you to buy it because it will give you the information about the line. But the truth is that having this knowledge that I'm showing here, you would most likely not buy the system because it's just too expensive, because you already have all of these sensors, and what you need is the integration service, not the data acquisition system. And this is very often mistake that's being made in this world. And especially if we are going to the robotized shop floor, which means essentially more data. The more robots we have, the more robotized stations we have, the more collaborative robots we have, the more data we are able to acquire, and the more data should we require to actually acquire, to be sure that we are actually hitting the peak performance of our premises. And in a robotized shop floor, if there is a robot operating, there is definitely some vision system next to it. There is some data acquisition systems that are working with all the supplying apparature that is around the robot. So there will be multiple devices that return different formats of whatever data with different timing. So you need to understand timing if you want to talk about the data acquisition. There are lots of protocols. Actually, European Union is trying to make it less protocols, but now we are still at the stage where there is a few of them, at least, that we need to use to transfer the data. And there are many ways of communication, because we can transfer something through the Ethernet cable, we can transfer it through the copper wire, through the fiber wire, or we can make it wireless. So in robotized shop floors, it is more dense. You've probably heard about the 5G systems, which also make a lot of connections or are able to make a lot of wireless connections. So in this environment where we have a lot of data and all the devices are returning something, it is super important to understand what is generating the data, how is data generated, what do I need to do with this data to get the information that I actually want. Because having data doesn't solve any problem in the world. Actually, it creates problems, because if you can imagine that today you put the sensors on all the machines that you have in your manufacturing site and you start recording the data, then you will see the problem that you probably have with your iPhone or some other mobile device and the photos, so that you have so many of them that you run out of storage. So you buy more storage, then you run out of storage, and so on. And the photographs in mobile, they are not the biggest data generator in the world, because if you think of getting all the data from the manufacturing, that could easily be a few terabytes a day. So if you imagine how much data are you actually getting, then you either do something with the data or you delete the data and forget about it. So what does it mean to handle the data? Why do you need to understand that? Where we need to think not of the data itself like a raw signals, but we need to think of a data in terms of the parameters we can draw out of the data. We can calculate from the data we have so that they tell us exactly what we want to know about what's happening. This is data handling. We need to pick the right signal processing devices and the right signal processing location to make a decision upon those parameters. There is a difference between the central processing, so that the whole factory is sending data to the computer that's in the middle, and this computer is doing calculations and then sending the responses back. And it's very different to doing calculations just on the edge, so very close to the measurement, so the decision could be faster. So we need to understand which data to process, how can we process it, and where would we process that. And last but not least, I've mentioned it before already, we need to have a place where we store the data, and this needs to be secure. So it could be a cloud solution. It could be a server that we actually put in our premises, but we need to think about it, because if we buy a server with a limited capacity and we run out of data, then we actually have a problem, because we need to do something. We either lose the information or try to buy another server, which will take the procurement procedures in terms of time, which means that we will most likely not do it fast. So again, we're losing data. So data handling is also very important. And we always need to think of data handling in a way that what do I want to get? Which data can provide me that information? And how do I need to process the data to get the information the fastest way possible? What is also important about the storage is that it's good to have it in a way that it is accessible to the people that need the data, because there is no point of calculating some super important parameters, whereas they cannot be shared to some other people. So we need to think who needs the data and create this whole architecture in a way that the data is actually accessible to the people that may want to use it. And yeah, so we get to the point where we see that the consciousness in the strategy that we take for the data acquisition systems or data acquisition strategy in our company is the most important thing that we can actually have or see or experience within the process. Because if our choices in data acquisition are unconscious, what would that mean? It would mean that somebody can sell me the system that is redundant to what I already have. And not only I'm being sold a system that is getting the data I already have, but the system does nothing more with the data, which means that you still need to do the processing, you still need to do the data handling to make out some useful information out of the system. So thinking of how to approach it is super important. And we need to have the background in data acquisition to be able to think whether I need to upgrade my systems to buy the new ones, or do I retrofit? So I put some additional devices next to the existing ones and try to get the data that I was not getting. If my devices are returning the data I have, but I'm not gathering those, then you need to think, how do I integrate the system? At what layers? What protocols do I need to use? What devices do I have that can accept that protocols? We need to think about it consciously before we go to the procurement or purchasing decisions. If we go to implementation, either retrofitting or integration or upgrade, we need to think of the facts on how long would that take and how much would that cost, because everybody's living on some certain budget. So it is very bad to plan the solution that you cannot afford, especially when talking with the companies that are selling some sort of a systems. You can really get into the trap where you don't get the information about all the costs. And a great example is if you're being sold a data acquisition system, then you purchase the system and you have the data, you don't have the processing. And obviously they can do the processing for you, but you need to pay extra. You can do it on your own, but you need to train people, which means paying extra. So try to always think of data as something you need to get the important information from. And then when talking with companies that are actually providing some sort of solutions, ask them, well, I have this parameter calculated, so that you get the final price for what you actually want to do. And in the conscious strategy, you also need to think, what values does it bring to you? If you're spending a lot of money to get the information that you don't think is important, don't do that. If the data or if the information from the data is not bringing you any value that will help you streamline the process in your company, you will just be able to display it on the screen and show to other people. There is absolutely no reason to do such implementation or to purchase the system like that. And to finalize all the statements, the consciousness yields success, and the consciousness comes from knowledge. So this is why I believe that whatever sort of implementation you are willing to do, whether it's data acquisition systems, or if you're further ahead in your transformation, and if you're thinking of any other tools that Alvaro was showing in the table that are available, I think it's worthwhile to actually take the course, learn about the principles of the certain topic, so that you're aware of the topic, you're able to make the informed purchasing decision later, and are able to draw and execute your Industry 4.0 transformation strategy in a way that it should be. And that's it from my side. Thank you very much. And I think I'm open for questions now.
Thank you very much.
Yes, exactly. Thank you very much, Przemysław. That was perfect and very interesting. And now, if Alex can share our presentation where we have our slides, but yeah, it's time for questions and answer and Q&A. So if you have any doubts, please write it on the chat, and we'll try to solve them as best as we can. Yeah, that one. Thank you very much, Alex. So please, now is the time. If you have any questions about the course, about the platform, please feel free to openly ask them on the chat. Let's see if we have anyone here. I cannot see them. I'm not seeing any question. I don't know if my colleague Alex can see.
No, it's fine. I don't see any questions. I think it was maybe pretty clear, so we can just wrap it up, I think.
Perfect. Okay, so if you can, that's it. Perfect. So again, thank you very much for this webinar presentation. Przemysław, thank you very much for coming today and giving us your time and your knowledge. And here in this slide, you can see our Twitter and the link to the MOOC Ramp and DIH² courses. So please stay tuned for more webinars. They are coming. We have at least 12 of them coming on the next several months. And you can follow us on Twitter. And in the meantime, the platform can be accessed on this link. Thank you very much for everyone attending today.
Alvaro, we have a question.
Oh, hi, we have one question from Pedro Arques, right?
Yep.
He's writing, hi, how do you think AI generation could help data acquisition?
So I don't actually understand the AI generation, but probably it's about the artificial intelligence and this technology and how can it help in data acquisition. And the answer is that it already helps. So how does it help? There are at least a few algorithms that are using to process the data that are using artificial intelligence to detect some unusual scenarios. So this is where we, because normally when we were doing some sort of like the surveillance systems, we were drawing a lot of weird algorithms that were prepared to detect something that is unusual. But we needed to define the unusual. And what is cool about the artificial intelligence is that it's kind of abstract thinking in those scenarios, which means that it can also detect and classify the things that we didn't think may occur. So this is one thing. The other thing is that with the use of AI modeling, of the neural networks modeling, it is also quite easy to see which data are important for our company. Which means, for instance, if you're already acquiring a lot of data about your company and you just want to use the data that's actually going to help you grow business, then the AI algorithms are being used to detect what parameters are actually correlating with the increased income. And what is super cool is that they don't have to be the internal parameters, because if you think of data acquisition, then one part is the sensors and all the things within the company, but there is also a lot of data outside the company. It's like market data, like the currency rates, anything that is connected with micro and macro economy around your company. And especially with those things, if you want to generalize maybe not generalize, but the fully utilize the general data about the market to help your company grow, this is also where we use the AI. But it's like very interesting place to be in terms of the AI data processing, because there is certainly a lot being done in this domain. And all the companies that are providing some sort of, okay. Oh yeah, the ChatGPT, it would help. You can ask, but generally speaking, from ChatGPT, you can, for example, ask the questions in regards to what data can I get from something, and how would this sort of data help me, and so on. So yeah, but it's like a new chapter for the technology, and we're all learning on how can we utilize it with this sort of abstract AI that we have with ChatGPT for now. So that's for it.
Yes, thank you. Pedro says thanks. I meant a foundation models to create data. Yeah, so I think you covered it pretty much as well. So Cindy just said that there is a problem on the platform, and yeah, I was going to tell you to make sure to be registered, but that seems like you did it as well. So we'll try to fix that problem as soon as possible, and we'll try to find your user and see what's the problem. I think it will be easily fixable, but yeah, we'll let you know once we know what's happening in that part of the main web page. So do we have any more questions for Chemislab, or any doubts or problems with the main web page, maybe? Yeah, there's Alex trying. Yeah, thank you very much, Alex, for giving the link. So yeah, so if there is no more questions today, we still have 5 more minutes, but if there is no more questions, I think we can wrap it up. And Pedro says, nice presentation, clear talk, congrats.
Thank you.
And that's okay. So as I said before, please stay tuned. We have more webinars coming from a lot of different topics about robotics and SMEs that will be very interesting. And thank you very much for everyone for attending today. And thank you very much for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye everyone.
Bye bye everyone.